So if you have your Bibles, we're going to be spending some time in the great Italian prophet Malachi. It's actually Malachi. Malachi is the last book in the Old Testament, and we're going to be spending time in the last chapter of the last book in the Old Testament, and we're going to mainly be focusing on the last verse in the last book, in the last chapter in the last book of the Old Testament. So Malachi chapter 4. We're going to read through the whole chapter because I think it shows a beautiful image of who Jesus is. But we're going to spend a lot of time on verse 6. And if you don't have it, I have it up on the screen. All this to say, if you haven't memorized it yet, I'll keep on reading it until we do. We are all ambassadors for Jesus Christ. We represent Him in a legal way on this earth. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 20 says, "Now then, we are ambassadors for Christ. As though God were pleading through us, we implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God." Being ambassadors for God means a lot. But ultimately, it means that we have a purpose on this earth. Our purpose is to protect the widow and the orphan, urging reconciliation. This is both between man and God and between ourselves and man. To restore those that are hurting, this is not only visiting those who are physically ill, it is visiting those who are mentally ill. It is also caring about the people who are hurting around us. There are people who are going through hard situations. We need to care about them. We need to reach out to them. We need to help them where they're hurting. We are to provide for the hungry and the thirsty. One of the few things that Jesus actually says concerning the end times and concerning the day of judgment is He is going to ask us, Did you feed those who were hungry? Did you visit the sick? Did you give drink to the people who were thirsty? Did you clothe people who needed clothes? Did you go out of your way to visit those who were sick and who are in prison? There's a whole list of things that He says He will ask us, or He will talk about during the judgment day. And many of those are right up here. Outfit the naked. We need to give shelter to those who are homeless. We shouldn't be allowing people to go without a roof over their heads. We should be trying to go out of our way to do something about that. And then finally, encouraging those who are in prison. And this goes beyond them being in prison. One of the things that we see, especially in today's day and age, is people who go into prison are the most likely ones to end up in prison again. They're more likely when you come out of prison to end up in prison again than to actually stay out of it. And the reason behind that is because people who go to prison, they have a harder time finding jobs, they have a harder time being able to support themselves, they have a harder time renting, so they have a harder time finding housing. We should be going out of our way to try to make it so that when people have their second chance, they actually have a shot at a second chance, and they don't have to resort to going back to the life that they used to live in crime in order to try to make ends meet. We have a purpose on this earth, and this is the purpose of Christianity. I would have loved to make reconciliation the top one. For us, yes, reconciliation is the top one. We want to bring people into reconciliation between man and God, primarily first, and second, reconciliation between man and even the church, because I think a lot of times the church has failed people, and that's the reason why they turn their back on God. I'll get more into purpose, but for now, I hope that we've all had ample time to go to the great Italian prophet Malachi's chapter here. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and ye shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. So to stop here, yeah, the world will do wickedly. They're going to do wickedly. They don't know any other way. What are we supposed to be doing? We're supposed to be ambassadors. What does Jesus look like? Jesus came, but unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings. That is what the church is supposed to look like. Because we're taking up Jesus' mission after Jesus has already risen up into heaven. We are to take on his mission on the earth. We are to rise up like a bright light for all to see with healing in our wake. When we move, healing follows. That doesn't necessarily mean that every single one of these healings is going to be a miraculous healing from God, though I pray that those healings follow the church as well, because that means the church is doing what God has called us to do. But it also means that we go out of our way to meet needs, we go out of our way to right wrongs, we go out of our way to be to justice to those around us. We are a bright light. In other words, when they feel that they are lost in darkness, when they are held back, when they are hurting, we are the ones that show up and bring light back into their life. That is what the church is supposed to look like, and that is what the church is supposed to do. And then when it says, ye shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall, we kind of lose the meaning in today's language. What that really means is the word grow up, it means excitement. It means that you will be built up in excitement. It means a good, when you raise a child right, they're going to be excited, they're going to be happy, they're going to have energy. That's what grow up means. And when it says you will go forth, that is also a word of excitement. It's kind of like skipping. It's like when you were happy and you can't help but have that little pep in your step as you walk. The excitement is clear. Just like if you open a stall door to a calf who has been in a stall for its entire life, the first time it gets the chance to actually run, it's going to be bebopping around, running around, having a great time. When you first open a stall for a fattened calf, they are excited. We're supposed to be like that too. We're supposed to be excited about the mission. This mission is not a burden unto us. This mission is something that we're excited to do. It is like we are calves who were held back for a while. And then suddenly Jesus opened up the stall, allowed us to do what God has called us to do. And we went out running, excited, skipping, hopping around, trying to accomplish the mission. That is what this verse means.
Amen.
And ye shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith the Lord of hosts. Remember ye the law of Moses my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all of Israel with the statutes and judgment. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And this is the verse that I want to really camp on for today. And he shall turn the heart of the fathers unto the children, and the heart of the children unto their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Now I want to propose to you this. This curse isn't necessarily from God himself. This curse happens as a result of the sin. This isn't God smiting us with a curse, telling us that we are now cursed because we can't do this. This is a curse that God says will happen to us if we don't get our act together. Okay, this is a result of sin. And let me show you why I believe that this is a result of sin. That this curse is a result of fathers turning away from their children. Because guess what? Today's day and age, especially in the United States. In fact, it is the worst in the United States than most other countries in the world, including a lot of third world countries. We have a major problem with fathers being completely and totally absent from the home. And it's been getting worse. Fathers are not there in the home, or even when they are there, they're not quote-unquote present. They get home, they check out, they're not involved with the family, they go out of their way to provide, and they have nothing left to give, and therefore when they get home, they turn on the TV and they're just absent. They're not there for their kids. They're not there for their wives. They're not there for their families. It is a growing problem. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 1 in 4 children live without a biological step or adoptive father in the home. 1 in 4. We can do better than this. 1 in 4 kids grow up without a dad that they regularly see on a daily basis. This isn't necessarily that the father's completely out of the picture. Some that make up the statistic, their dad, they only get to see their dad on the weekends. Which, if that's the case, it's sad. It's hard on the kids. It's hard on the parents. It's just not a fun thing for anyone to really go through. And some of the fathers that are in this situation, for example, Eric is in this situation. Eric is such an awesome dad. Yeah. He does not check out when his kids come. He listens to his kids. But just to talk about Eric, because Eric, you are an awesome man of God and an awesome father, and I appreciate you so much. Eric, you should listen to him when he gets excited about his kids. He talks about how his kids are coming over, and he learned this new recipe because he asked his kids what they want to eat, and he's going out of his way to try to learn this recipe, to buy these ingredients. He cooks with his kids. He works with his kids. He goes out of his way to play with his kids. He finds out what his kids want to do, and he makes it so that they're excited to come to his house. Eric is such an awesome dad. Unfortunately, the reality for most kids in America, of most of these kids in this statistic, is they don't actually get that. The majority of the kids that come from a family where they only see their dad on the weekends, or sometimes even less than that, is that the two parents put the kids in the middle of their fight. Because the mom and the dad don't agree with each other, they start telling the kids that the other one's wrong and that the other one's bad, and they have to be careful around the other one. You have to protect yourself from the other one. And then what happens is these kids grow up alienated from both parents, because both parents are telling their kids about the worst parts of each other. And it's unfortunate, but the majority of this statistic, the 1 in 4 children that grow up without a father in the household, they just don't have a dad that's present. Either the dad passed away, or more likely the dad just completely abandoned the family. The dad went off and did his own thing. It's really sad. And I was looking up the statistics. I know I did a lot of statistics in Bible study today. I didn't plan that at all, but hopefully you don't get overwhelmed by all these numbers. 90% of homeless and runaway children come from fatherless homes. They come from a home without a dad. 90%. 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. 85% of children with behavioral disorders are from fatherless homes. 70% of juveniles in state-operated institutions come from single-parent homes. Not necessarily fatherless, but single-parent homes. 66 of those juvenile delinquents experience fatherless. In other words, they do come from fatherless homes. And 25% of those kids have an alcoholic dad who's in the home, but they're alcoholic. Children living absent of their biological father are 2 to 3 times more likely to be expelled or suspended from school. Girls whose fathers left the home before the age of 5 are 8 times more likely to become pregnant as adolescents. Children in single-parent homes are more likely to have low self-esteem, depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues. Children in a father-absent home are more likely to face abuse and neglect. They're more likely to abuse alcohol and drugs. They're more likely to suffer from obesity. It's a hard situation for these kids to be in. On the other hand, girls who feel close to their fathers, so not only are their fathers present in the house, they also make an effort to have a relationship with their children. Girls who feel close to their fathers are 75% less likely to have teen pregnancy. Children who feel close to their fathers are 80% less likely to spend time in jail. Children who have a father actively involved in their life are 33% less likely to drop out of high school and 43% more likely to get A's in their classes in school. All of that to say is that kids who do not have a father in their household, we're borderline setting them up for failure. If they don't feel close to their dad, if they don't feel that their dad is involved, we are setting them up for failure. And I think that the church has an awesome opportunity to do something about that. Why? Because first of all, we are supposed to care for all people because God cares for all people. Second, we have the best example of a father out there in the world, in God the Father. So we can take that message to kids who are growing up in these terrible circumstances. Some of the statistics that I didn't put up here is that the vast majority of families that are homeless, families as a collective and not just homeless people, but families that are homeless do not have a father in the family. The vast majority of people who are who struggle to get over the poverty line in America all come from a fatherless family. We are in such a great position as the church to not only bring these kids a father who will never abandon them, who will never fail them, and God the Father, but we also are in such an awesome position where we can ask God for wisdom and then share that wisdom by mentoring young adults in these situations. By just being there, showing them that they're seen, showing them that we care, showing them that we actually want to be involved and we actually want them to succeed. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we are the church and we're supposed to care. We are the church and we're supposed to do something about it. And so, I have been talking about, especially recently, that I think churches need to start working together. That I think that faith-based organizations need to start working together. I told you that one story about that small town who had 3 different food pantries that all refused to work with each other, and because of that they weren't able to meet the needs of the people of their town. And so I have decided that instead of just talking about a problem, I'm going to try to do something about it. So I'm hoping, with the backing of this church, that we would all be willing to rise up behind a purpose. That we would all be willing to reach out to the community around us and help organizations that are already there to do a better job, to meet their resources and meet their needs. But also when we find that a purpose is not being upheld by a faith-based organization, that we will go out of our way to make sure there is one. In Connecticut, after a quick Google search, I found that the #1 organization that helps mentor kids without a father or kids who are below the poverty line in broken families is DCF. which is not a faith-based organization. And a lot of times I feel like they do more hurt than they actually help, which is just unfortunate. Rob told me that it was the Jericho Project. The Jericho Project does have a small mentorship program. I am hoping to talk with them and maybe work on getting that to grow, maybe offering help in whatever way I can, including being able to be available to mentor a kid. To mentor a young man or a young lady that just needs a strong moral character in their lives to be able to help them, guide them through any of the problems and the struggles that they face. That is something that I want to get behind. But more than that, we as Christians, we all have a purpose. Our purpose is to protect the widow and the orphan, to urge reconciliation, to restore those who are hurting, to provide for the hungry and the thirsty, to outfit the naked, to shelter the homeless, to encourage those who are in prison. That is our purpose. And so, I am working on setting up an organization called Purpose. The entire purpose of this organization is to, in our local community, find groups who are already doing the same thing and helping them work together. For example, and this was back when I was out in Oklahoma, I worked for 2 different food pantries. One food pantry had a constant supply of paper towels. They always had way too much paper towels to the point where they just started giving paper towels away to the volunteers, saying, hey, just give this to people who need them because we have too much, we can't store so much. And one of the other organizations, while I was out in Oklahoma, had a large supply of shampoo. One organization had a paper towel company who donated paper towels to them all the time. One had a shampoo company who donated shampoo to them all the time. One organization didn't have any shampoo almost ever, and the other organization didn't have paper towels almost ever. Well, we could have met those needs if these 2 organizations worked together and said, hey, I'll trade you my paper towels for your shampoo. Let's go out of our way to make sure that both of our organizations are supplied. That is one of the things I want Purpose to be able to do. To bridge the gap between food pantries, to make sure these food pantries, if they have an overflow of one thing and a need in another area, to meet those needs. I want Purpose to be able to stand out there, kind of like what David was talking about, where we go to public tag sales, farmers markets, where we go to the flea markets, and we set up a booth where we say, be reconciled to God, there's a better way, let me tell you about Jesus. I want this organization, when we see that a need is not being met in a satisfactory way. For example, the Jericho Project probably needs resources to be able to actually have more mentors for these young men and women who are growing up in a fatherless home. They probably need more resources to be able to reach out and actually reach the community that desperately needs them. I want to be able to have an organization that will help them find and meet those needs. An organization that will not only be able to back them financially, but back them with manpower. And so why do I bring this up in a sermon? Because this is literally the purpose of the church. This is quite literally what the church is supposed to be doing on this earth. We see that in the words of Jesus over and over and over again, that we're supposed to be helping those that are in need, that we're supposed to actually care about the people who are in terrible circumstances, and we're supposed to do something about it. Not just talk about it, not just mail a check in every once in a while and then ignore the problem, but we're supposed to be actively involved in making the world a place that looks more like heaven. So let's do that. Let's make the world look more like heaven. So if you want to be involved in Purpose, or if you have organizations that you already support right now, that are already doing one of these missions in Connecticut, in our local area, come up and talk to me. I want to know about the organizations that you've already worked with, that you've already been involved with. And I want to know about the organizations that you've heard about, that you think we might need to take a look at and start seeing. If you want to be a volunteer, let's talk about how you can get involved. Maybe not with Purpose itself, but maybe with an organization that Purpose supports. Let's find a way to change the community. I made a statement, and I'll close with this. I made a statement that we are too small of a church in these four walls to make an impact on the entirety of the United States. And that's true. But let me show you hope. Change does not happen by making a big stride forward. It happens in something that's small. You take a family, a strong family that supports each other, cares about each other, are based on biblical principles. That one family who is strong makes a strong neighborhood, because they don't just turtle up and keep it to themselves, they spread it to their neighborhood, to the people around them. A strong neighborhood can then affect their community. A strong community then affects their town. A strong town affects the nearby city. A strong city affects the state. A strong state affects their region. And a strong region affects the United States. And as we've seen in times past, a strong United States sends out more missionaries than the rest of the world combined, because that was what the United States was always meant to be. So let's change it one family at a time. Let's change the world one family at a time. Let's find a way where not only do we change the family, but that family takes up the purpose as well, and they change another family, who then takes up that purpose as well, and they change another family, and that family takes up that purpose as well. And suddenly you have communities working together, trying to spread not only the gospel, but also life. But also life. We can be a light to the rest of the world. We can be that city on the hill. So instead of saying the job's too big and we're not good enough, let's start saying our God is bigger. Let's make the change we can. Because we're all supposed to have a purpose.
Amen. Thank the Lord.